And I said, God, whatever you want to do with me, if you'll equip me, I'll do it. He brought me out of a rice field to a pulpit. From mud to a mansion.
Hey, everybody. Good to have you back with us on our Mud to a Mansion podcast. I'm Brother Curt Howard. Today, I'm Curt Howard Daddy. I've got my daughter, Cacey, with us today. And she probably don't have anything good to bring to this because she's just going to make fun of me probably and tell stupid things that she's going to say I did that I may not have done all of them. So anyway, so we don't really know what's going to happen today. So I'm going to let her bug me. And she's always wanted to be a movie star. Now that I got rich and famous and in the movie business with this big podcast, now she wants to get in on it. So there you go. So what are you going to do today?
Well,
what are we going to talk about?
I've kind of been doing the free labor of uploading them, making sure they're going. So
yeah,
I got to show my face. But no, so I'm going to sound terrible. I've got some kind of sickness. I have a 2-year-old, and so it's like a petri dish. And one week I'll be sick, and then the next week I'm recovering. But while you're recovering, you still sound like this. So it just repeats, and I'll never not sound like this. So if I'm sniffling, sorry. But I wanted to get in here and kind of talk about just stuff, because I told him, I said, we talk about church stuff, and you've probably done episodes now, many that are just about church stuff or spiritual things or something, but we don't talk about you as a dad or as just kind of how you are in life. I think that's probably the number one question people ask me, especially at like revivals and stuff. People walk up and they go, "Is he like that at home?" And I think they expect me. Yeah, I think they expect me to be like, No, he's actually quite calm. He's just putting on it. But no, it's like literally level. It's just the same thing. And yeah, sometimes it might actually be worse if all the boys are there in the same room. But I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that. Maybe it's not. Well, you'll let us know, I'm sure. But so we're going to talk about what it's like growing up with a pastor. We're going to I think we'll do like a little bit of like the spiritual aspect, but also just you as a dad too. But growing up with you as a pastor, I don't remember much else. I guess you started when I was, 5? It was
21 years ago.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, so I was 5. So I guess I don't really have a whole lot to base it off of before then. Cray probably has a better idea, but I'm the only family member I think that would join you. Everyone else thinks you're silly, so I guess I was the only option.
Yeah, you probably.
But growing up with you, as a pastor, everyone always acts like the PKs are crazy, wild, and all this, but I just remember always having a respect for you, and now that I have a kid, I look at it and I'm like, man, I hope that he respects me the same way, because I don't feel like we were too terrible of kids.
No.
I feel like me and Cray were pretty decent. Cray was a little crazy with his temper, but that's, it's a personality trait. But I don't know. I just feel like it was not too terrible from what people can probably tell you. That may not be everybody's case. But one of the number one things that I've always respected was that whenever people talk to me, they're like, oh, this pastor, you can't trust pastors, you can't trust the church, they're hypocritical. I think that's the number one thing that people probably say that don't go to church, but used to, is that the church is hypocritical. And as someone who went to I've been to maybe one other church, couple visited some, that's like the number one thing I look at, is that even you, I can be biased, but at home, I feel like you practice what you preach, which is something you probably really try to follow. You really try to.
It's real important. Yeah.
I don't think at home, it's not like you're doing shady stuff or you're a different person than what you are. So that's just what I've always respected. And even as a dad, he's the same way at home. He's still crazy. He's ADHD. He's still getting in trouble by mom, all the things. But I was going to get your input. How did you feel raising kids as a pastor? What's your perspective on, you started being a pastor, I guess, when Cray was 8. Maybe a little bit older than that, and I was about 5, so that means Cray was probably a little bit closer to 10, but 9 or 10.
Yes.
But what was your outlook? Did you feel like we were put on the back burner, or?
Well, the biggest fear you probably have when you're called to the ministry is probably thinking about what your kids, if they're not raised right, act right, and live good, clean lives, that's always going to be a burden to a pastor. And I know pastors raise their kids right, and they turned out to really get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And so you, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I'm going to raise my kids the way I was going to raise them anyway. But they can affect my ministry. Where about any other job, people don't.
Right.
Your children's not going to affect your job, but ministry, they can make or break it. I mean, technically, but I never. I mean, it just it ain't like you guys really understood everything going on and wasn't suffering. We still had running water and had clothes on your body.
We were fed,
and we went from the big house and the land and making really a lot nice salary to not that much, and y'all done without some stuff, but you didn't know any better. I mean, so it really wasn't no deal with that, and you guys was always good and didn't cause me no trouble. So that was good, but you do look at that and think, if these kids don't, and the reason preachers' kids don't act right is because they run around with the church members' kids. That's what's wrong, really. That's the biggest problem. But no, really, I just knew I had to do what I had to do, and if you raise them kids right, they're going to respect your job and respect what you're doing. And y'all, we didn't ever talk to you guys about what people were saying or doing, and tried to keep all our problems. I still don't tell your mom most of the stuff that I know and that I deal with because it's my job and I don't want to put a burden on y'all.
Yeah.
So.
And I know, like, growing up and stuff, we always, like, on the flip side of that is there's a flashlight on us is that we're looked at. And I still, to this day, I'm grown. I'm 26 years old, and I still think about what people will think about you based on me. And I'm 26.
Well,
I have a kid. Well, I know you appreciate that, but like, still, if I don't if something happens and Briggs is sick and I can't come to church, I'm like, everybody thinks we're just out, at a baseball game or we're doing something crazy or something, and I don't know that that'll ever end. I mean, that's good on your part that I care, I guess, but I mean, that's the flip side of it. And then I can see on your end, you do your best to raise, and I see people do that all the time. Other pastors you were talking about, their kids, they raise them up great, and we see that, and then all of a sudden they hit 18 and they fall off the wagon, which seems to be kind of a thing.
It happens.
And so I know I don't know if you know what you did, but I guess you did an okay job. So, yeah. Two thumbs up.
Be sure and like and subscribe.
Yeah, he has no tips other than just do your best.
Yeah,
and pray a lot, I guess.
Yeah, and
but
I
mean, growing up, I just it's all I've known. So I guess I don't have too much of other stuff on that. But switching to just you as a dad and just growing up with you, I think that's probably what people care more about, if we're honest. What actually we all did and stuff. But some of my earliest memories, like I don't have one of those memories where I was like a little baby and I remember coming online. Like, I don't think I have that. But I remember being little, we would drive home from church and you had your, what do you call it, your Jolly Red Ranger?
Yeah, that little red,
Yeah, when you took to church, you had no money, and so you drove this tiny little Ford Ranger.
Jolly Red Ranger.
And we'd go to, like, I don't know, some kind of youth event or something back then that was popular, and we'd ride that little red Ranger and just fly. And I remember coming back, we'd go through the bottoms down in that connect from Strawberry to Lynn, and you just stick your hands out the window, and you got to see who can catch the most bugs.
Yeah,
and it's based on how loud you kind of yell or flinch. If you get a really big beetle, it's gonna hurt.
Ow,
but I guess those are some of my first memories coming online. But
you remember me stopping for the wreck at night?
Yes.
Somebody had wrecked in the ditch.
Okay, I have that in my notes right here to talk about. But it's on a different perspective because I'm sure you're thinking, oh, remember that one time that I was on the way home and I stopped for that wreck? My perspective was we stopped for this wreck. I don't even know how old I was. And I was terrified out of my mind. It is dark outside. He gets out. There's some bloody man in the ditch just like staggering around and a woman looking for keys or something. They're bloody. I'm just, I'm like, what is going on? I started panicking. I remember I started praying so hard. I was like, we're not going to get out of here. I don't know what I thought was going to happen.
Came in from a youth rally.
And it was dark outside.
I jumped out to render help and didn't think about
me.
My kids,
I was just sitting
in the truck, and so
it's probably little. I don't know. I was probably
I got to
like
live
7.
through it, so that was good.
So, we made it. Yeah. But I remember we were in a curve too. We probably could have ended up in that too. But I remember your Uncle Greg, his brother Greg, showed up and he was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I guess." But that's one of my first memories too, going to youth rallies and just the silliest junk happening. But I remember they were covered in blood, and I'm just like, well, this is normal.
It didn't scar me, but it did you.
I mean, I guess he's just always been a helper his whole life, so he's like, oh, those people were bleeding. Let me just hop out and just, who cares what happens to the rest of us? But, no, and then I'll never forget, he says you're always friends with the church kids. Well, I was friends with a couple different kids at the church, and one of them had come home with us. I remember when we lived in that house at Lynn, and we were going out. I had a cow for some reason. I don't know how I got the cow, but I had a cow, and it was in the bottom field.
Josie, yeah.
Yes, Josie the cow. And she was bottle fed, and so we had made a bottle, and it was really dark, and we were going out to feed it, and we were scared because we were little, and so we start walking out to go feed her. We get probably about halfway down there, or maybe we even make it to the gate, and we just we hear this loud bang and this like sound. I don't know if it was a moan, a yell, or what happened. And we're like, there's someone out here with us, and we take off running back to the house terrified. We get inside the house, and Dad comes in. I think you had a white T-shirt on.
It bled through.
Yeah.
I don't know what
white
color it
T-shirt
was. It
on.
obviously wasn't red. The
He had a
shirt
cut
wasn't.
like down his
No, it's
side.
right here.
Yeah,
across
yeah.
my whole rib cage.
And it was like bleeding out through the white. And I'm like, what the heck happened? He's like, well, I was trying to scare you. I was like, well, you succeeded, but it wasn't
worked.
the way you thought.
Well, on my side, that when I knew they was fixing to go feed Josie, I thought, yeah, I'm fixing to really show them. So I was going to go around back and scare them out in the dark. And I forgot we had that little metal dog house out there
Yeah.
that Sandy bought for me.
Yes. That's where you stay in some nights.
I couldn't see it in the dark. I tripped over that thing, and that sheet metal cut me from there to there. And I mean, it's just a scratch, but it's a big scratch. And I remember walking in the house, and Sandy goes, what do you got that smirk on your face for? What's wrong with you? She looked at my chest. She's like, oh, my gosh, what'd you do? I said, and then they come screaming in like, oh, gosh, you scared us to death. I'm going, yeah, good. And I still got that scar across my...
No, and I think for like a year after, you complained that like you probably
busted a rib separated
or something.
ribs. It didn't break them. It separated them is what they called it.
Yeah, it really did some damage. But you could never believe when you come in with blood on, because it's like it's a thing in our house for him to have a gallon of fake blood and just have it accessible. Like, who else does that? I don't...
Was you going to tell him about the shot?
Yeah, I assume
Remember
no
the
one
shot?
else probably does that. Which shot? The one where I said I was going to give it, or Mom?
Yeah, like a hip shot. Sandy'd have to give me a shot every couple of weeks or whatever. And so she gave me a shot, and I went in the bathroom there, which that house wasn't big as nothing. You couldn't turn around. You had to back up in there. And I'm standing there in front of the mirror. And so I got this fake blood I got that looks real. And I've saturated a rag with it.
Yeah.
And stuck it on my hip where she just gave me a shot. And Cacey walks by. And I go, hey, is this still bleeding? And she goes, oh my gosh, Dad, you've hit an artery, you know? And she panicked. She's just a little girl. She's like, Mom. Sandy came in there, looked at her eyes. She thought, oh dear God, I've hit. I don't know what I hit, but I mean, blood. My hand was covered in like the darkest artery blood. And then by the time she goes, oh my gosh, and she looked up at me, and she went, wow, and hit me like in the shoulder, like.
It became such a normal occurrence though that now we don't ever know when he's serious. Like, he walked in, I don't know, this was probably a year or two ago. He walked in and his hand was bleeding, and we're like, good one. Like, we had guests over or something. We're like, yeah, that's real funny. And like, he's over there like acting like he's bandaging it up or like washing his hands, and we're like, yeah, whatever. And we're not paying attention to him. He'd really cut himself, and you just don't. I mean, and he's got a trend of cutting himself. I mean, I'm sure he'll get into that one day, but that's
when I cut my artery, you know, Greg thought I was joking with fake blood.
It's hard to believe.
Is this real or not? And I said, dude, I'm really...
You were near death, and we thought you were joking still.
Oh, my.
But, no, and then you remember the time when we went to... so we go to the Capitol pretty regularly. Well, we used to. I kind of aged out because I was a page or whatever they call it, where you go in the Senate chamber. And I don't even know what I'm handing these people, but I'm handing them these little slips. And I guess they're going to talk to lobbyists. This is like lobbyists wanting to talk to them.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know. They just
good.
said, when you give one of these, we're going to tell you a name and you find it and take it. We're like, okay, cool. But you would go pray and pray for the Senate before when they opened up and stuff. And we've done it, gosh, at least 5 times or something. You've probably done it more than that because you still go. But we'd go, and I'll never forget one of the first times we went. It was me and a friend and then us, and we'd got in there and we started to leave. We're like, okay, we're starving to death. For some reason, there's no food like around. I don't know what happened, but it was like we were starving, and we leave, and we're right in front of the Capitol. There's all these people everywhere. We start driving at this intersection. There's a guy, I think he might have been with a walker too. He just like steps out, and he's like in the middle way, and you almost run him over. He lays up on the front of the hood, and I'm like, great. We're on Capitol Hill doing the preacher of the day runs over the old man with a walker.
Yes.
But it's like every time we go to the Capitol, there's something new that's happening there, or a fight going on or something. Who knows what they're doing there half the time. One time we showed up and you told the governor something, and I'm not allowed to repeat it. But you misspoke, and I'll never forget that. But Governor...
They tell him my son was gay or something
Yeah,
like
you
that.
said... Well, you said...
I was trying to say my son's...
It was Mike Beebe, and you shook his hand, and it was
If
all
it's-
really
no,
fast-paced.
it wasn't Beebe. It was...
I thought it was Beebe. It might have been the one after him.
Asa.
But you were going through so fast, and you were like, this is my daughter. And we had Natalie with us, which is my brother's wife. And he goes, and this is my boyfriend's girlfriend. And then shakes his hand and walks off. And I'm like,
yeah, like I was gay.
yeah, we told him, we were like, you just told the governor, and you're the preacher of the
Oh.
day. You're doing the prayer in the Senate, and you were like, this is my boyfriend's girlfriend. And we're like, wait, that's even messier than
Boyfriend's
just
girlfriend.
the initial. That one's real messy. to try to
That
think
really,
through.
yeah.
But
Oh, man.
we've had some things happening. And then Washington, D.C., we went there. That was fun. We got to go to D.C. and
somebody
you had-
got shot that day.
Yeah, at the
we
day
would have been there.
Yeah, we
the White
decided
House.
not to go to the White House, and they had
Missed
some
out
kind
on
of
a good shooting right there. Some dude tried to jump the fence.
We
and
were
shot
too
him.
tired from walking.
We was
'cause-
tired from the zoo, which was terrible.
And we had walked so many miles. I think one day, I can't even remember how many miles it was. We had walked through Washington, D.C. because you don't drive vehicles there. And every time we went to the metro system, we would have to fight over which line we were getting on.
Yeah, you and Mom
If there-
fighting over
it wasn't me and Mom.
Was it me
If
and
there
you?
was anything, if there's anything, me and you are the same amount of hard-headed, and the whole time we just go at it about how, oh no, we're supposed to be taking the red line to this one, and we're taking the blue
Yeah.
line, and people would just see us in a huddle.
Your
just
mom was
standing there.
stressed out time we
She
got
was
home,
stressed out. I
'cause-
think her and Shannon would just stand in the
yeah,
corner. It
they
was
were
like,
stressed.
we'll
We like
just-
to argue. We got the spiritual gift of argument and criticism, and
we just
and
don't know where
it
we're going to
just-
end up today. So we didn't make it to the we did make it to the
We did
Capitol.
not go to the White House.
We didn't go to the White House or the
We
Capitol.
went to Capitol because
We went by
I was
it.
saying I'm just
Yeah.
a bill.
Yes.
Yes, I'm only a bill.
Yeah. Well, I don't even remember what that was back then. You made those stupid
Yeah, I know.
videos.
You'd have to
Dub
watch-
smashes. Yeah.
Yeah, Dub Smash.
If you're very young, you know that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Those are some of the funniest things. You have anything you remember that was crazy? Those are remember that one time we went to the dentist this one time, and we were too poor to afford like a normal dentist. He's not a normal dentist. Sorry, Dr. Barker. He's a normal dentist. He just
No, he's the 1 out of 5. He's not normal. He's not the 4 out of 5. He's the 1 out of 5. He pushes it to the edge. I love him. That's why I like him.
He's really great, and he helped us.
We was going all the way to Brinkley.
Yes,
what you
we were
mean?
driving
we
a
we
long
wasn't driving 10 minutes. We drove
ways.
an hour and a half to the dentist. What you mean
because
about
he
not
would
normal?
help us out because we didn't have health insurance, dental insurance, or something because you just taken the church and that's expensive.
Yeah, he was.
So,
a blessing,
anyways,
big
we were
time.
driving a really long ways. I remember we were pretty little. I think we were in that van. Were we in a van when we passed all those semis? Were we? I think we were in that ugly brown like.
No, we was in.
Were we?
we was in.
Were we in Mom's Mazda?
Yeah, we was in one of the minivans.
Yeah, one of the minivans.
Yeah, something like that.
We were in one
That
of them.
sounds about right.
Okay, we were in something.
Past 5.
And it wasn't meant to go
Gravel
fast.
trucks.
Yeah.
Big gravel trucks.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't meant to be going fast.
We wasn't
But-
going that fast.
I don't know. But I just remember we're all sitting in the back doing our little stuff back there. We got over an hour drive. And I just remember Mom going,
And what did she say?
oh, we're going to pass one? And then we start going. And then
we
we just
couldn't get between them. It was all or none.
Once we started passing, I think we went past 5 or 6, just full
Yeah.
force. We're in the back going, go, go, go.
And she said, in the middle of it, while I'm negotiating that little road to McCroy, I'm going faster than I could ever dream this to go. And then she goes, if you kill us, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
That was
does
her
some
words.
good.
If you
Yeah.
kill us, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And I'm humped up on that thing of driving. And
It didn't help that me
I broke
and Gray
like some
were-
kind of record.
Yeah.
I'd say it's still today is probably a...
If they had those cameras there, now that they have, in random places, we would have been, we would have ended up
that's-
somewhere.
yeah,
But,
that's-
I
yeah.
mean, it didn't help that we were in the back just agging on. We're like, yeah, at
You
this
remember-
point, we've passed so many. This could be a world record.
You remember me burning the tires off the intersection too? Sandy's minivan when...
No, I don't remember.
Cray and all them? We was going to the dentist and Cray and all his boys his age. He was
Yeah.
he was nearly a senior, so all them boys set up
Oh.
the intersection before school
Yeah,
starts.
yeah.
And there's all
Strawberry.
squalling their tires,
Yeah.
them old loud trucks, and they go, wom, 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 whoop. And so I pulled up in that minivan and held on the brake and jacked it up and went, squalled down front tires on that and took off, and you and Cray was laying down, and y'all ceased in the back.
Don't let them see
Yeah,
us.
they did. Like, please don't let them see my daddy squalling in a minivan. So
I feel like
yeah.
that's the motto of what our life has been, probably just trying to hide or just, the embarrassing stuff that happens. It's like people look at us. During church service, they're not doing other stuff. They're like, he'll make a joke or he'll be doing something. Like that one time you rode the pulpit, you got on it like a horse. It's not people like, oh, that's funny. No, they all go like this.
They look at y'all.
They look at me
Like,
and Mom, and
"Can you
we're
believe
like,
he's doing that?"
yeah, are you serious? And we're like, what do you want from us? Like, this is, if
Let's
you don't
look
do it here, he'll do it at home.
Just look at them and go, you're the one that drove 30 minutes for this.
If 500 you want to watch this, then that's on you. But
Yeah,
anyway, I don't know. I feel like I had one more question for you before we.
It's been pretty exciting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. To tie it all off, to make it not just a complete joke. I feel like the point of bring it back down to a level. We'll end with this, I guess. We'll bring it back to a normal level. But how did you, for other people that are taking on this, they are doing you've done this for 21 years. It's all I've known. I'm 26. And I think last year we did your 20-year anniversary thing or whatever, being here. And everybody's just kind of like, oh, he's done this and this. And they had us make videos and stuff. And I talked about you as a dad because, it's not fair to, this may come out sounding bad, but to only talk about you as a pastor. You have other aspects to you. But all other pastors and preachers, I'm sure, feel the same way. But how did you balance, like, the priorities of us being a family? Because I always talk about that. I always tell people that. And it makes it sound like, oh, poor, pitiful me. Like, we were put on the back burner. Like, I have a thing I wrote, I think, for Father's Day. And it was, we're sitting at the dinner table. You have to take a phone call and leave immediately. Or it's midnight. I hear a phone call. You're leaving the house. And where's he going? Someone else needs you. Leaving your family. How do you figure out this balance? Or do you feel like there's any kind of, or God, that's your job, and as long as you make sure your family's taken care of? I feel like there's a hard balance there, and probably pastors don't know anything about that. And I'm not saying I felt like I was like mistreated.
No, I pretty well covered most of y'all's stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you showed up for stuff.
I had to leave sometimes, and sometimes you couldn't be there, surgeries and stuff. But the biggest events in your life, we was there. But if it's not a full-fledged emergency, I understand if somebody's really, somebody needs to be saved, or somebody's on a deathbed and the families, they called the family in. You really like to be. Yeah. It's real important to be there. It helps when you got Brother Shannon and assistants that you can take confidence in doing things the way you do it. But I still always want to be there. Yeah. But I never, I don't really have a lot of regrets from times I left that I'm like, I wish I'd been there for that. Yeah. I don't have that because I heard a guy say one time, and I think Adrian Rogers might have even told the story, or somebody, or no, it may have been on the FBI class, which is a Faith Bible Institute class. Brother John may have said it, that he said, don't tear, somebody called and said, hey, we're having marital problems. We need you over here. And he's just getting ready to eat supper with his wife and kids. Yeah. And he said, the pastor's like, I'll get there when I get a chance to get there. But he said, I'm not going to ruin my marriage because you ruined yours. Yeah. Now, that's kind of sounds like a cruddy way to say it. But there's a discernment of what's... Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Of importance. And you got to be there for your... if it's not an emergency, you shouldn't take away from your family, and because you had them first, and so I tried not to do that. I was pretty good at discerning that. I mean, I don't think I missed much.
I feel like you were too. I don't ever, like I said, I don't feel like I was mistreated or anything, but I think that's probably one of the number one things that people like to highlight when they talk about us as a family, and like everything that we sacrifice for this position. But I think it probably helps if your family understands the authority or the position that you're in and respects that too. Cause
they do. That's the main thing is people don't bother me that much. If it's not, and then some things are important, they won't bother me because they don't want to bother me. But most of them understand, and it don't ever bother me to text me or call. And if I can't, I'll just say I'm just not where I can right now. But we'll get there when we can. But anyway, I didn't miss none of your graduations, and I wish that I'd had something going on. Yeah, I could have missed those, but.
They weren't too bad.
But you was a magna cum laude, though, wasn't you? So
I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what I was.
Something like that. And I was, I think, of the Lordy.
Yeah.
And did you get 1B ever?
Yeah,
1B,
yeah.
1B
It
in-
was like
in college.
business calculus or something.
Yeah, you got 1B.
Some
and
that doesn't matter. I've
that's-
never used again.
That's one thing we got in common, me and my daughter, is she went to college, I went to college. She got 1B and I did too.
The rest. What were the rest?
Yeah, yours was all A's and mine was, I was a good C student in college, I promise you that. So,
Oh, that's
but
funny.
anyway, yeah, but it's a balance and everybody's got to figure out that balance, and you'll find out that when everything's done and all the smoke settles and dust clears, your family's going to be there. Church people might not. It don't mean you don't love them any less. It means you've got a family to take care of. And I tell young guys, you got to know when to say when, and your church will understand if they really love you. And so
Yeah.
it's never been a real issue here, I don't think. And Sandy knows. I mean, we've got in from drive all the way back to Lynn and get a call that somebody's in hospital at Newport, and she'd go, I know where you're going. I said, yep. I'll see you later, but it wasn't, that was just coming home anyway. It wasn't like an event, but
No.
but she just always knew I was going to go. But I mean, we left Branson early one time for a funeral that wasn't even a church member.
And it's probably good just to.
I don't know about that. If I'd do that, I don't know
Yeah,
if I could
I
do
don't
that
know if you did
again.
that again.
I
It's-
mean, I love the people, and I mean, it was a
Yeah.
family that goes here, but they would have never asked me to,
Yeah.
but it's just one of the deals.
And it's probably just important to highlight that you did miss things or did leave, because probably a lot of pastors today don't do anything for their flock. So
yeah.
find a balance.
Yeah, you got to
But
find a balance.
anyway,
Find a balance.
I think that's all I got. But if you got anything
Well,
else,
I've run out of your teleprompters. Don't have nothing
I
on them
know.
now, and
we've probably got a bunch of other really dumb stories.
yeah,
Nothing
it's-
about
it's-
me.
It's
just
good
all
to
about
reflect
you,
on.
But,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
anybody wants any more dumb stories, just let me know. But I think
Yeah.
that's all I'm good for here.
Oh, well, there's a lot more. We just have to think about it as we
Yeah.
go, and
I don't know if y'all want a more in depth of the preacher kid parent dynamic, then maybe we could focus more on that. But I wanted to kind of get, this sounds bad, non-spiritual for a minute, so that you have a little bit of that also.
Yeah.
And people get to know who you are, not just that you're a pastor. So, but anyways, I had a good raising. I think I turned out okay. 2 thumbs up to him and mom. But yeah, I'm thrilled that you have a church that supports you and that you're at where you're at, because I can't imagine if you were
I can't either.
dealing with things when I was a kid. That sounds bad, but I'm glad that you got through all that while I was young, because
Yeah.
I take a lot of
You
things
don't remember all
personally
that. Yep.
you go through. If someone calls you something or goes to bat, I'll go to bat for you on Facebook, but I try not to. I try to be reserved.
Yeah, she's a Facebook pirate. She'll get you.
I'll find
She'll
you,
get
and I'll
She'll-
find out stuff about you.
Yeah, she'll get after you, boy. But it all worked out good, and our kids was blessed, and we wouldn't have it any other way. I promise you that. So we're blessed with both our children, married wonderful spouses, and got the best grandchildren in the world. They're better than y'all's, I can promise. They're perfect. I mean, I know I've changed some diapers, so that not
Yeah.
that perfect, but they're still perfect. So
Yeah.
anyway, we're blessed, and it's been a blessing. So anyway, we'll tune in. We'll do this again some other time, and she'll think up some more silly things and make fun
Yeah.
of me. So
Or if you got any ideas.
I'm good with it.
We do have a comment section.
We do have.
I do
comments.
check them. He doesn't. I do. So you got any ideas? Let us know.
Yeah, and say amen.
Yeah.
Amen. I agree. He's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Until next time.
hey, see y'all. Thank you.